My name is Maddie, and I moved to Scottsdale in 2019 from Cincinnati, Ohio. About 14 months, I would say, so a little over a year. The 911 call was pretty quick. I had this gut instinct reaction, and I was in a state of shock, fear. It was a very tough time, but within that state and that moment, I just knew that what had happened was not appropriate. I had been in a relationship with my partner for a little over a year, and we decided to move in together. And 3 weeks after moving in together, he came home from having some drinks with some friends, and he became physically violent with me. There were also a lot of threats that went on, a lot of screaming, some property destruction, throwing things, and so I immediately called 911. I was in the back room of the apartment, and he was in the front room, and I just shut the door and I waited until the cop showed up, and then they knocked on the door and he walked outside with them. Obviously separated us and spoke with both of us, and then determined that there was enough reason to take him away. So he was taken to jail that night and spent that night in jail. I was obviously crying. I was freaked out. I just kept saying over and over again that I didn't do anything wrong. I don't understand. I will say that when the police officers told me they were taking him away, I was not happy about that. The next day I got a call from I think it was somebody from the prosecutor's office, just letting me know that he was being released from jail, and that he was instructed to not come back to the place that we were living at together. And then the person I spoke to also let me know the charges that were being brought against him. There were 3 charges that were brought against him. One was assault, one was disorderly conduct, and then the other was criminal damage, and they were all the domestic violence related charges for the 3 of those. Shortly after the court called me that Saturday morning, somebody from the Department of Victim Services through the prosecutor's office called me and started to inform me of everything that was going on with the specifics of the court case. It was an interesting experience. It was a good experience. The advocate really just informed me of rights that people in my shoes have, so victims have. There's what's called this Victims' Bill of Rights. Those first few months while I was waiting to see what was going to happen with the court case, and I was terrified. I thought every day I was going to have to go sit on a stand and recount every single thing that happened. And so I stayed quiet for a while. There are a lot of people out there who do want to help, and resources out there to help. And one of the best things for me was, as part of calling for help, there was not allowed to be any contact between the 2 of us. And that's really what allowed me to separate myself from the relationship and recognize all of the things that were going on even prior to that night, and really work through it and be able to move on with my life quickly. I worked with one advocate specifically. She spent a lot of time, emails and hours on the phone explaining to me everything, and she was very helpful throughout the whole process. One of the things that, like I mentioned about the being heard in court, so she made me aware that writing an impact statement was an option, and it's not something that I necessarily had to appear in court to share, but it's at least something that I had the option to do. And so I immediately started doing that as my own healing. I started writing a bunch, and I started to write that statement, and there were tons of iterations of it for me. And then ultimately I did decide to appear in court and read that statement myself. And my advocate came with me to court. So she met me out front, made sure that I felt safe and comfortable. She sat through the court hearing with me, and then was there when I delivered my statement too. Another thing that I did was I got a therapist right away. I wanted to immediately start therapy and face this head on so that it wasn't something that was going to continue to eat me away. And so that was very helpful. The therapist helped a lot with like the PTSD part of it. I ultimately did decide to get a protective order. They're really helpful in just providing that sense of safety and security in my own space, and that also helped with healing. So I filled out the petition online, and then I appeared in court and spoke with the judge, and ultimately the judge did approve the protective orders, and it's really a no contact order, and then certain locations as well. So I am glad that I got it at the end of the day. It did help with the healing and another layer of that space between the two of us. My future looks great. I love living here in Arizona. I love exploring. I've got incredible friends, family, people who support me and continuing to just meet new people. I love my job. As I've gone through all of this, I faced it head on, and I healed from it, and I moved on, and I'm glad that I did that. It was really hard and challenging to do that. There were countless nights where every single day I was just trying to understand why this happened to me. I thought it was my fault, and going through those moments of weakness and then finally coming to the realization and knowing that this wasn't my fault, I didn't do anything wrong, was huge. While this chapter is closed for me, I don't mind revisiting it and sharing my story with others. And also I recognize that while it is closed for me, there could be possible instances where I do have a scenario where I feel like something bothers me or I'm going backwards, but that's okay. It's okay to go through that and to let yourself feel that and then continue to move on. And I don't know other people's situations, and sometimes it's really challenging once you get into something to get out, but I know it's possible to do so, and there are people out there who do want to help. So I know that me sharing my story with some of those people have helped them go have conversations. What got me through all of this was always standing up for myself, even in those moments of weakness. And the other thing is just the reminder that the words love and violence don't go in the same sentence, and abuse and respect don't go in the same sentence. And realizing that was huge for me to be able to move forward and put this all behind me.